What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Mohawk Motors. My name is Jason. So today I'm going to try to knock out another project on one of my trucks that I've been wanting to do for a while. I've caught up on all the parts I need to pull, so I actually get to do what I want to do, which is work on my own stuff. Let me show you what we're going to do. So what I'm working on today is my 2003 Chevy Silverado 2500 HD. Now I use this thing to tow my trailer, to pick cars up, to drop cars off, to move stuff around, but this thing is 99.9% trailer and scrap metal hauler. Now, I have already converted it to the 06 and 07 style front end. The taller hood, the different grille, and the bumper to match it. Today, I'm gonna do some other upgrades, some of which I know will work, some of which I'm not sure will work. I'm gonna find out, and if it doesn't work the way I hope it will, then I'll have to figure out another way to make it work. So here's all the parts that I'm trying to get installed on this truck today. Now, I'm gonna convert it to electric fans. This is the electric fan assembly out of a 2006 Chevy Silverado. I also have the entire front end harness from that Silverado. So it has all the wiring and the relay pack already part of it to control the electric fans. All I'll need to do is extend this wire and get it pinned into my PCM to actually control the relays, turn the fans on and off. Now, I save this harness because it also has all of the wiring for fog lights. Now, this truck doesn't have fog lights, but in messing with these things, I've noticed that in the main power distribution block under the hood, where they put the relay for the fog lights down here, they always have the pins inside of them for the fog light relay. And I've also noticed that the wire harness that runs to your little switch, in this case a bed light and fog light switch, the wire harness that runs to this connector is the same in the trucks that have fog lights and the trucks that don't have fog lights. So what I'm really hoping is the wiring from the switch in the cab to the relay is already present in the harness. And by adding the wiring from the distribution block down to the front, that's going to be all I need to do to have working fog lights in this truck. I'm not sure if it's going to work or not, but the fact that GM pins for the relay and the wires are in to where the switch is, I really suspect that that harness that runs from inside the cab out to this control panel, to this power distribution block, it already has the wiring in there to control the relay to turn the fog lights on and off. So fingers crossed that that works. And then obviously I have the lower valence and the fog lights to get put on. I have the later style fuse panel cover that has the little additional cover for the relay pack for the fans. And then I also have a larger transmission cooler. So since I'm going to have the whole front end apart to do the lights and everything else, I want to get the larger transmission cooler installed also. And this thing, I see the transmission get up to about 200 degrees if I'm pulling a long hill with a loaded trailer. That's a little hotter than I like my transmissions to get. So I'm hoping adding that larger cooler will help keep my transmission temperatures closer back down to the 150, 160 range where I'm really comfortable and I know I'm not hurting anything, and help the transmission live a little longer, stay a little healthier. So I guess that's enough talk. Let's get started on this project. First thing to do, obviously, I gotta get this front end stripped off of it. The grill, the headlights, the little cover panel, the fan shroud. I think I can leave the bumper on. I'm gonna try to do it leaving the bumper on, but if I have to pull it, I'll pull the bumper off as well. And then we'll start putting the new stuff in. I'll set you up. Let's start taking it apart. Okay, everybody, time for an update here. Got everything taken off of the front end that needed to come off of the front end. I pulled the fender well liner and battery tray on this side just to disconnect the PCM bracket and make it easier to get the wires through. They actually run inside of here, so it's nearly impossible to get it out without taking that PCM mount off. Got the fan shroud out, all the other front end parts, and then obviously this is my original wire harness here with the brown on it, and then this is my I'm swapping over to wire harness. Now obviously the addition of the wiring and the relay pack for the electric fans is different, right? It's going to have this little forked harness here. This is your connectors for your electric fans. And obviously it's going to have an additional plug for the fog lights on each side. One here, one over here. Now the other thing you need to be aware of and check for if you're going to attempt to do this is the impact sensor plugs. Now sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different. I don't know why GM does it, but you can see there's an impact sensor and there's an impact sensor. And then here's two other impact sensors, and they all look identical, but the part number here in the yellow is different. And I'm not sure if the insides of the impact sensor work differently or if there's different resistance or what it is, but the plugs are different as well. So the plugs from the original harness have one pattern of ears. The plugs on my donor harness, on my swap harness that I'm putting in, these are a different pattern. Now, fortunately, I have impact sensors with the correct pattern, so these will plug in. Now, the other thing you can do here is, see this little gray part? On this plug it's gray, and on this plug it's black. Now you can take that little part off, and that allows you to essentially change the key to which impact sensor it'll fit. So it can be done either way. Either get the impact sensors that match your harness, or swap the little key piece on the plug itself. So I'm going to swap my impact sensors because I have these, I know they're good. And then I have to get the whole harness fished back in, put where it needs to go, get the grounds connected. I am going to have to drill a hole and add a bolt on this side because the electric fan harness uses an additional ground over here. And my assumption is because those fans use a lot more current than just lights do, so it needs that additional ground. So I'm going to add that ground, get it all fished through, put where it needs to be, and then I'll bring you back. It's slow, it's tedious, there's not a lot to see. So I'll get it all put into place, wired up, rounded up, put where it needs to be, and then I'll bring you back and show you. time for an update on this project, team. So I got all the wiring put back into the front here. I got, you know, all the headlight, marker light, fog light, all the wiring put back in place. It's all loomed up down below along the back edge of the core support. I got the electric fans put in, their wires hooked up, everything put back together over here. And I'm ready to test it out. I'm pretty confident it's gonna work. I did have to make a few changes, and I think they're largely because of the year difference. This truck is an 03, and they didn't start the electric fans until 2005. So they also added some other features like the external ambient air temperature sensor. I'm pretty sure that's what this is. So there were a few differences. The main difference was this supplemental connector. I shouldn't have put the cover back on, but it goes right on the side of the power distribution block under the cover here. And the original connector was this 6-pin connector, and the newer harness had a 10-pin connector. Fortunately, it has all the same functions and even the same wire colors. So all I had to do was cut this end off and splice the correct end for the 05 harness onto the 03 harness. So that was relatively easy. The other little bit of wiring I still have left to do is the control wires for the fans, which it's just 2 wires. They plug right in, and I'll just run those over and pin them into the PCM in the appropriate terminals. I did another video on converting to electric fans, so I'll put a link to that video up here for you. It's more in-depth and it'll show you more of the details of how to do it. So yeah, it's all hooked up, the battery's hooked up. Let's check and make sure all the lights, the horn, the airbags, everything is doing what it's supposed to be doing. So first, let's check the lights. Alright, we've got both marker, headlight, low beam, both marker, low beam, okay. Let's do high beam. Got high beam on both sides and still running, marker lights. And let's check left turn. Left turn signal's working. Right turn signal's working. Hazards. Yes. Moment of truth, fog lights. Hey, we have fog lights. Let's see. Turn back off. Back off. All right. So my hypothesis was correct. GM does in fact run the wiring. Let me bring you up here where you can see. So that's awesome. I've seen this so many times. I've been wondering for so long, and finally able to verify. So you can see down in there, that's where the fog light relay goes. You can see the little receptacles in the panel. And then the fog lamp fuse is right here, which also has the little receptacles in there. And every one of these panels I've ever had apart has that little, it has those receptacles in there. But if the truck doesn't have fog lights, usually the fuse and the relay just aren't in there. So this verifies for me that the wiring from the headlight switch in the cab and the fog light switch in the cab to the power distribution panel here in the engine compartment is there, even if the truck didn't originally have fog lights. So all you need to do to add fog lights and keep it appearing stock, I mean, you could just wire in your own fog lights, but if you want to do it using GM components, you just need to get the fog lights and the headlight harness from a truck that originally came with them. Really, if you wanted to, you wouldn't even have to get the whole harness, just the fog light portions of it. But I mean, in my opinion, it's easier to just swap the whole harness out than take a harness apart, get the pieces you need, and then try to add it in here. Like, just switch the whole harness. So, man, that's awesome. I'm really pumped about that. I wasn't sure if this was gonna work. I thought it was, but theory confirmed. Now all I need to do is get the headlight valence put onto my bumper, and then get the transmission cooler hooked up in here, because I do want to get that transmission cooler done and try to keep my transmission temperatures lower. So I think I'm going to do the transmission cooler before I put the bumper back on, just so I have all this access to all this room. I'll get to work figuring that out, and I'll bring you guys back when I make a little progress. All right, well, I figured I'd show you before I cover it all up. But I got that transmission cooler installed. I'll put a link to it in the description. Obviously, I painted it. If I remember correctly, this is the part number, LPD 47391. Oh. Here you go. Here's the actual number. Wheelite OC 4739 transmission oil cooler kit. It was actually a pretty good kit. It came with these little straps to mount it, and then I was able to drill and tap 2 holes into the top of the little core support piece here. I used the bolts from the original transmission cooler to mount those. I had some extra bolts laying around. Obviously, I have plenty of extra bolts from all these trucks I take apart, so they're all factory size bolts, all 10mm stuff. So if I ever need to take this thing apart, I don't need to find a 3/8 or some other oddball size. It'll come apart with 10mm just like the rest of the truck will. And then use the existing hole down here, existing hole on this side, and the little brackets they gave me, and this thing went right in. Was able to I had to cut and flare this line a little bit, and this line I was able to use it just how it was. I just slipped the hose over the end, a couple hose clamps. In case you didn't know, the transmission cooler circuit is low pressure, like 5-10 psi at the max. So a barb fitting, a flare fitting with a hose clamp is more than sufficient to hold the amount of pressure that should be going through your transmission cooler circuit. So that's all on there mounted up. I'll get the bumper and grill put back on, the little cowl put back on, and then I'll mount my fog lights and my fog light valence to the bottom of the bumper. And then all I have to do is program the PCM. Well, everybody, here we are again. It's actually the next day now. I've got the whole front of the truck put back together. Grill is back in. I got the new fog light valence put onto the bumper. I guess it's not new. I had it already, but it's new to this truck. And everything put right back together. So the only thing I have left that I need to do now is get my 2 wires here for my electric fan controls pinned into the PCM. Well, team, PCM is reprogrammed. It's got the electric fan programming in it now. Everything else is hooked back up and ready to go. So the only thing left to do is start it up, let it get up to operating temperature, and see if it switches the fans on like it's supposed to. They both work if I just test them by touching the pins to the grounds. So they should work when the PCM switch is on. I'll start it up, let it run a bit, and bring you back once it's up to temp. The fans are working. They work on low speed. I'm confident they'll work on high speed when it gets hot. It just won't get that hot sitting here idling. My fog lights are working. All the other lights are working. I got my new heavy-duty transmission cooler installed in there. I wish I'd had some flat black paint, but gloss was all I had. I'm sure it'll be dirty and flat appearing soon. I also, while I was at it, and because I had them, I swapped in some cloth seats from another truck that I had here, largely to get the center console, but also those vinyl seats, they're hot in the summer and they're cold in the winter, and at least the cloth kind of takes some of that shock factor away. I'm gonna leave the vinyl seats in the back for now, just to that's way easier to clean when my kids are back there making a mess. So, but otherwise I think that's it. Fun project, some very some upgrades that I'm really happy with on this truck. The fog lights, not so much important for anything else other than I like the way they look, and I really wanted to see if it is in fact a change the switch, add the relay, and add the wiring, if it's that easy. Because a lot of things, if you didn't order it from the factory, GM did not put the wiring in the truck to support it. Power windows are a good example of that. If the truck didn't get ordered with power windows, the wiring in the dash and the body control module will not support power windows. You need to add that either with an aftermarket kit or with a ton of rewiring and body control module. So I'm happy with these upgrades. That's a cool little discovery theory confirmation that I have there, so I'm happy about that, and I'm calling it for this video. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed. If you're looking to do a fog light upgrade, now you know how to do it. And until the next video, everybody, take care.